Hello, and welcome to GMR 410's Mitigation Minutes. With well over 500,000 ATMs in use in the United States, and those ATMs processing over 10 billion transactions annually, ATMs are an appealing target for criminals. As a result, ATM crimes have been trending upward. In one study released by 3SI and the ATM Industry Association, an average of $83,000 is stolen per physical attack. Of course, this does not include the cost associated with damage to the machine, and not to mention the cost of damage to your drive-up or building. ATM attacks increased by nearly 150% in 2020 over 2019, and standalone ATMs were the most vulnerable, accounting for 17% of the attacks. Currently, attacks in Texas are outpacing all other states. However, California is also of concern, followed closely by Florida. While there are many factors driving crime upward, major reasons include the proliferation of ATMs, their 24-hour availability, the large amount of cash they usually contain, and their ease of access. Today, we are discussing physical attacks and some tips you can use to deter them. Physical attacks involve force. The goal of a physical attack is to gain access to the cash inside or to physically remove the entire ATM to another location. In a physical attack called a smash and grab or crash and grab, suspects will use a vehicle in their attempt to access cash or remove the ATM. The hook and chain method has been highly successful across the United States. In this type of attack, suspects may use a grinder to weaken the ATM door, attach a chain hooked to a pickup truck or some other type of vehicle, and yank the door off, escaping with the money cassettes from inside. In most cases, these attacks are over in less than 3 to 5 minutes, defeating police response. In each of these cases, the tactics used are typically destructive to more than the ATM, often damaging surrounding buildings or drive-up lanes and any other items in the immediate area. Heavy machinery like front-end loaders and forklifts have been used to uproot ATMs, causing extensive structural damage, especially to through-the-wall and island ATMs. Such incidents are especially prolific at locations near construction zones and typically happen in the early hours of the morning. Of growing concern is the increasing threat of explosive attacks. In an April 2021 news article released on ATM Marketplace, ATF officials report that they have seen a 400% increase in such cases over the last year. The reality is, criminals will always seek new opportunities and will modify their MO to compromise the ATM. Accordingly, it is important for you to consider retrofitting existing locations with layered security measures and take a fresh look at location, risk, and security when planning and installing new ATMs. When planning and installing new ATMs, it is important to consider where the ATM will be placed, in other words, the location, the potential crime risks, and your ability to comply with state and internal lining standards and requirements. These considerations will help you determine the type of ATM appropriate for the site, security countermeasures necessary to address crime risks, and the correct lining design needed to ensure compliance. For example, ATMs and ITMs located on the inside of a branch may be less vulnerable to certain physical attacks as they benefit from the security of the branch itself, and the units may not be available after hours. However, an off-premise standalone unit located in a remote area of a parking lot may be a greater risk because it is in an unattended environment. Conducting a risk assessment will help determine the level of safe which should be ordered, the required alarm and video surveillance packages, and any other security measures appropriate based on the crime risk profile. As another example, standalone drive-up ATMs can also have a high-risk assessment, depending upon where they are located and how they are positioned. All locations should be risk assessed during the planning phase and on a recurring basis, regardless if they are on-site or off-premise. Also, we must emphasize the importance of implementing an ATM lighting and landscaping program. Currently, 13 states and 2 cities have specific laws establishing standards to address ATM safety, and numerous states and cities require safety measures to be considered. Having a program and conducting regular assessments to ensure compliance with state regulations and internal standards will go a long way in helping to protect your customers and your ATMs. Finally, let's spend a few moments discussing the implementation of layered security protection strategies for your new ATMs and your existing fleet. During hook and chain assaults at drive-up ATMs, it has been noted that ATMs at the end of the drive-up lane, especially where there is sufficient runway at the end, are more prone to this type of attack. If possible, modifications are recommended to remove the runway so vehicles cannot drive off at a high rate of speed. Runways can be eliminated by introducing chicanes in the drive-through lanes or the addition of a bend after the last ATM. Other options include adding gates and anti-ram raid bollards to deter criminals. Another countermeasure for hook and chain attacks is a safe slot reinforcement kit, which removes all available space surrounding the dispenser and deposit slot in certain ATM models and reinforces the area around them. This makes it more difficult to damage the module transports and insert a hook in the safe door. Now, everyone claims to bolt their ATMs into the concrete, but the reality is that many of the bolts used for older installations can and have been easily defeated. Units and locations prone to ram raid and pull-out attacks would benefit from some type of third-party anchoring systems. ATM trackers that use GPS technology can also be installed into ATMs, which will allow for tracking and recovery of either the cassettes or the ATM itself, should they be stolen during attack. ATM body armor upgrades the UL safes, providing physical and visual protection for the safe door, the safe sides, and the front. The downside of this type of product is that will only offer protection against cutting or tool attacks. ATM body armor does not protect against explosive attacks. Gas detection and neutralization solutions can be installed to detect the presence of gas used as part of an explosive attack. These devices can be configured to trigger alarms, smoke, sirens, or other notifications. Gas neutralization will counteract the presence of an explosive gas to hopefully prevent an explosion from occurring. Installing an enhanced dispenser shutter assembly may offer 2 benefits. One, they are designed to harden the shutter assemblies against cash trapping attacks. And 2, the reinforcement offered by the shutter may also protect against forced entry, removing the access needed to place explosives or pump gas into the safe. And finally, cash degradation solutions like ink staining should make the cash unusable if the ATM cassettes are breached. We know that criminals will never stop attacking ATMs. The risk is minimal and the reward is just too great. They will continue to modify their attacks and attempt new attacks in one area while expanding what works in others. No one solution will remedy every type of attack, but implementing a lighting program, layering your security measures, and slowing down the attack are key deterrents. The best defense is to stay proactive in understanding the risks at each specific location and protecting each ATM accordingly. Unsure where to begin addressing a comprehensive and risk-based program for your ATMs and branches? Visit gmr410.com to schedule a complimentary initial consultation with one of our security advisors. Thanks for listening, and check back soon for more tips to help deter crime at your branches and your ATMs.